everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy So What Day. I hope you're having a great creative start to your week. We have so much to talk about today that I almost didn't make the live in time. I was still putting images into our platform and I got this alert that said you better go live right now. So here we are. Whew, we made it. So yes, a lot to talk about today because I decided to cram 3 projects into today's episode of So What. So, it's because they all are related in some way. They all feature applique using Sulky Perfect Applique Fusible Web. Just, in different applications. So we are going to learn how to make cookie ornaments, and I call them cookie ornaments because I use cookie cutters for the shapes for the ornaments, for my templates. Love this trick. You can use this for cookie cutters really of any shape, but Christmas is so quite appropriate for them. But, a star shape would look really, really cute in a garland for Hanukkah, things like this. So there's all different ways to kind of reimagine this project and make it your own. And there's so many different cookie cutters out there. I mean, they're just adorable. There's animal cookie cutters. You could make these in the shape of little animal cracker type cookies, and that would be adorable. So that's what we're going to start with today. And then I'm going to go over a couple of mug rug designs because, as we know, a mug rug is like a coaster, right, for your hot or cold beverage, but it's oversized so that you could put your little cookie on there or a little snack, something like this. It's kind of like a mini placemat, if you will. So we're going to go over a couple of different mug rugs. One is done using a traditional applique method. See how that kind of goes together with our ornaments. And then one is done using in the hoop applique, and it's actually done completely in the hoop of your embroidery machine. So that is the focus of today's episode of So What. I'm seeing you a lot coming in and saying hello. Love that. And be sure to put your comments, questions, all the things in the chat, because as long as you are engaging with the post today in some way, you will win our In the Hoop machine embroidery Warm Toasty Mug Rug design, which is valued at $7.99. It's available at sulky.com, and that's what we're going to go over as we move forward in today's episode. So we will have one lucky winner who will win that design, and you can make all the mug rugs for your friends, family, teachers, co-workers, all the things. It makes a really, really great gift for the holidays. All right, so before we get started, is everyone registered for our New Year's Eve Sew Along event with Sally Tomato? This, of course, is happening on New Year's Eve. We start sewing at 12 noon, but if you can't join that day, you can still register, get the pattern, get the In the Hoop machine embroidery designs, which are for the hanging accessories right here. You can see my bag hanging behind me. The hanging accessories are the machine embroidery portion of the event, and you will be making a small little key fob, and you can either add this design, which comes with the file, or during the event, I will teach you how to swap out a design of your choice that you already have in your machine embroidery stash. You can make something that looks like that. Oh, my other one's hanging. It has a letter on it, so it's a little monogram treatment. And then we will also be making these In the Hoop mini zip pouches, which also make really great gifts for the holidays. These have a little swivel clip, jump ring thing, not a jump ring, a D-ring swivel clip that you can hook to your Lamont bag that we will be making during the event. All right. So with your entry fee to our Sew Along, you will be getting 4 hours of streaming video of us taking you through step by step. Jessica Barrera from Sally Tomato will take you through the Lamont bag from start to finish, and I will take you through those 2 in the hoop accessories as well. So again, if you can't join us on that day, we get it. It's kind of a holiday, New Year's Eve, right? Or it can be. If you can't join us live for any portion of it, as long as you register, you will have all access to the video because we record all of our events, and they live in your personal library over at sewingonline.sulky.com, so you can easily go back and watch the video anytime after the event ends. That is also where you will get your pattern for the Lamont bag and your machine embroidery design files for the 2 accessories. So make sure and pre-register, because when you order your kit before November 15th, which is coming up here in 4 short days, you will get the best deal on the kit pricing. And all of that information is available to you once you register for the event. You can see all the colorways that are available for the kit, all the pricing details, and all those good things. So you want to be sure to register before the 15th so you can get the best deal on your kit. After that, the price goes up a little bit. And then after that, the price is going to go to retail price. So you'll save quite a bit of money by registering early, getting your kit, making sure it's on the way to you so that you can pre-cut all of your pieces and have everything waiting in the wings for New Year's Eve. All right. Let's see here. Susie says, I'm registered. Can't wait. Love that. Oh, great question. Noreen is asking, is it 12 noon Central Time? No, it is 12 noon Eastern Time. That is when we get started. So be sure, if you're in a different time zone, you got to back it up and make sure to set a reminder for yourself. When you register, we actually will send you a confirmation page that there's a little button where you could just click on it and add it to a calendar of your choice on your computer or tablet or phone or wherever you're reading your confirmation email. And so that will automatically populate to the time zone that you're in. So that's pretty cool. And there's a countdown and all kinds of fun things so you can see how many days, minutes, hours, seconds until we go live. So it's really, really fun. Sharon says, I am already registered. I haven't missed any one of them. Love that. Can you believe this is our 6th annual New Year's Eve sew-along? I'm just so proud of that. I love it. This is one of my favorite things that we do all year round. Super fun. If you haven't experienced one of our sew-alongs in the past, register for this one and check it out. You can also always register for our previous New Year's Eve sew-alongs. If maybe you joined us last year for the first time, you can check out all of our New Year's Eve sew-alongs, get the patterns, get the embroideries, get all the goodies, and watch all the videos and kind of see what you can expect this New Year's Eve. So you can always add our past events to your library at any time and watch them in their entirety. And it's a really, really cool education platform, a really fun experience. And in my opinion, it's much more fun to sew at the sewing machine, even with all of these virtual friends that you've never met before, than, watching TV, watching some, musical acts that you have no idea who these people are. I don't know. I'm pretty out of touch, even though I have young kids. When I watch these, these TV specials, I'm just like, who is this artist? What's happening here? Anyway, I like to stay, in the know, but sometimes you get the idea. All right. Anyways, Betsy says, I love the bag I made with you last year. I ended up making 2. I mean, that was one of my favorites too. It was our Yellowstone theme. The theme for this year is Adventure Awaits. So that means you could take your bag with you on your adventures, whatever they may be. Maybe you're just adventuring to Target for the day. Maybe you're adventuring to Germany with us on our craft tours trip. I gotta tell you, the packets should be in your mailbox starting today. If you don't get it today, it will be coming in the coming days. But I know that our tour packets have been mailed out, and I'm just so excited for all of us to join together in Germany for the Christmas market season, if you will. And they're also preparing for our visit at the Sulky factory in Stockstadt. And we're talking about goodie bags and all the fun things that we're going to do in Germany when we arrive on December the 8th. I guess it will be the 9th by the time that we get there. Because of the long travel days. But at any rate, you will get your packet with your itinerary. You will be getting your cute little booklet that has, every single day what we're doing with room for notes, which I actually love so much because I will write in there the restaurants I went to and the food that I ordered. And if I really, really loved something so that I can go back, I used to have it right next to me. I can go back to those places and either try something new, or I can remember, what I had there and, have it again. And I'm just so excited. So anyways, let's see. Betsy just applied for her passport, so you can join us. Betsy, why don't you come to Greece with us in 2026? We're going to all these amazing bucket list locations in 2026 and beyond. We are starting to plan for travel for 2027 to give you guys, all the advance notice that you need to, get on a payment plan if you need to, figure out your passport logistics, all of those things. So really, really excited for that coming up. All right, so shall we get to our Christmas cookie ornaments? This is what a couple of them look like a little bit closer up, so you can see that. The size is, about the size of the palm of my hand. You don't want to get too small with your cookie cutters. I just grabbed all of my holiday themed cookie cutters, and yes, I have a lot. I will tell you that every year since my girls were in preschool, we had a lapse of the COVID years, or the COVID year, I can't remember. But every year since my girls were in preschool, we have had a cookie decorating party at our house with their friends, and we always have some kind of goodies or lunch, and we do a craft and we decorate cookies, and it has really become this awesome tradition. So as you can imagine, over the years, I just keep collecting Christmas themed cookie cutters. So I've got snowmen and candy canes and of course gingerbread, and I have them in all sizes. As I mentioned, you don't want to go too small with the cookie cutters that you're using for your templates. They're just going to be too hard to turn right side out, quite frankly. And honestly, you don't even have to turn them right side out. Instead of sewing them right sides together, you can sew them wrong sides together. And then maybe just finish the edge around your seam with pinking shears, or you could do a hand-done blanket stitch around them. And then you don't even have to turn them right side out. So if you want to do little minis and not worry about them being too small, that's a great workaround. But you probably would need to do some hand sewing to finish them and make the edges look nice. So just keep those things in mind. But gather your cookie cutters, figure out the shapes that you want to use. I went with gingerbread and star and hearts for mine. But again, you do what floats your boat. I also have, you can kind of see it in this image, I have this Santa shaped cookie cutter, and it's just really difficult to see what it actually is when you cut an outline of it from Felty. Ask me how I know, because I thought it would be really cute to do some layered applique, make a little face out of the snow, or out of the Santa, and do all these details, right? It just ended up looking like a blob. So also keep that in mind when you're looking at the cookie cutters that you have. I wanted mine to look like actual cookies with the frosting on them and the sprinkles using French knots. So I kept mine really, really simple, and it means that you can really bang out a lot of these without getting caught up in all of the minute details. But you could certainly go as decorative and as extravagant and layered appliques and all the things. But I just decided to keep it really, really simple. You could do a whole tree of these and it would be absolutely adorable. All right, so you grab up your cookie cutters, and then we also need our Sulky Perfect Applique Fusible Web. And yes, you can use this on Sulky Felty. Felty is 100% polyester. It can be washed. It can be fused. All the things. So unlike a more expensive, luxurious like wool felt, you can fuse this, wash it. You can use stick and stitch on it and wash it away if you want to do a more intricate design with your hand embroidery. So it's a really, really great product. It is also much more flexible and soft and nice to touch versus using like a stiffer craft felt, those sheets that you can buy for like 18 cents or whatever at the store. You can almost see through those guys, first off, and they have this stiff, yucky quality to them. I don't know how else to describe it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And when you go to sew through it, it almost feels like you're sewing through a layer of cardboard. Even if you get the more flexible sheets of craft felt, again, they're almost see-through. So they just do not do this project justice. The Sulky Felty is so much nicer in quality, and just a variety of colors you can choose from, and you can get it on the roll instead of just buying sheets of it. So when you buy a roll, like for this project, get a roll of white and a roll of the brown if you want a brown cookie, okay? So for a project like this, you get so many more ornaments out of it. You need a front and back of the brown, or whatever color you want your cookie to be. We also have a cute little light beige color if you don't want your cookies to be more gingerbread-esque, right? You can get so many more ornaments out of a roll than you can with trying to configure out of a sheet of Felty, right? Okay, so we're going to transfer the shapes that we want to use onto our Perfect Applique Fusible Web. This is for our frosting, all right? The frosting is going to be the exact shape of the cookie cutter, and then we're going to go out from there to cut out the cookie shapes. All right. So, whoopsies. After we have transferred it to the fusible web, then we need to fuse our fusible web to the Felty. And it's very hard to decipher the right and wrong side of the Felty. In my opinion, it doesn't really have a right and wrong side, but I can notice a slight difference. On one side, it looks a little bit more almost compressed than the other side. One side looks a little bit fluffier, so I always just try to look really, really closely. Sometimes I have to use my flashlight, and then I can tell the little bit more textured side, and that's what I use for the right side. So you'll fuse your fusible web to the wrong side and then cut out all of your frosting shapes that you want to use. Once you have that, take your frosting, remove the paper backing of the fusible web, and place it onto a square of your cookie Felty, we'll call it, whatever color you're using for your cookie Felty. I don't cut this out until the very end when my front and back have been sewn together. It just makes it so much easier to go around curves and all of these things when you haven't cut it out yet. So I fuse, in this case, my star frosting to my square of brown Felty, and then I set my machine for a blanket stitch to sew the frosting to the cookie. You can use a straight stitch, you can use whatever decorative stitch you want. Now, the other thing about this is I used super heavyweight thread not only for my French knot detail, which I will get to next, but I also use that heavyweight thread for my applique stitching, for that blanket stitch. It gives it a really very close to handmade look when you use that thicker thread. So in order to set up my machine for that thicker thread, I install a size 116 needle. Not a 9014, a 116. The size 116 has a large enough eye to accommodate the thickness of that 12 weight cotton thread. Very, very thick thread. In the bobbin, I'm using 60 weight bobbin thread. The lighter weight bobbin thread will give you less density to stitch through, and you do not ever want to use that heavyweight thread in the bobbin and in the needle. You can use it in the bobbin if you're doing something like bobbin work, but we're not doing that here. We want a nice balanced stitch. So we're going to use a much lighter weight bobbin thread than our thread on the top. What other tips for using this in your machine? We'll see if I can remember some as we go along. So test this out. Choose the stitch length and width that you like for your decorative stitch, whether it's a blanket stitch, a serpentine stitch. Maybe you even have a little snowman stitch and you want to put that on a little snowman. Have fun with it, right? They're ornaments. Okay, so we'll blanket stitch that down, our little frosting. And now it is time to add our little sprinkles. So you could do whatever you want to here. You don't have to do sprinkles, but I thought it just added to the cookie flair and was so cute. You could do just red and green sprinkles in a couple of shades of red and a couple of shades of green. I did multicolor sprinkles. So I have red, green, blue, yellow, some pink in there. Just what my little sprinkle jar looks like. That's what I chose. So I just started creating random French knots using all the different colors and placing them all over the frosting. So if you need a little French knot primer, if you will, first what you're going to do is, when I'm working with a couple layers of felt, plus we've got the fusible in there that we've fused our frosting down before we sewed it, I do knot the end of the thread when I start the French knot. Plus, I traveled with the thread, meaning I didn't tie off each French knot. I made a French knot, and then I traveled over to the next place and made another French knot. So the back side of my cookie looks terrible because I just traveled around with the thread. But nobody's going to see it, and it made it so much quicker and easier to do it that way. You could certainly tie off each French knot if you prefer, but I'm also going to add a layer of batting behind this, and so it's all going to be covered up not only by the batting, but by the back of the cookie as well. So you're going to come up from the wrong side, taut with that knot on the back side of your work, and then I always hold on to the thread close to where my needle came out. This tension on the thread is really paramount when you are creating French knots. So after you come up with the needle, you're going to wrap your needle twice around that thread that you're holding taut, and then put it back down almost exactly where you just came up. I like to go a little bit over from that first hole, and then you'll pull it through, holding that thread taut until it gets close to your French knot, and then you can let it go, and you'll have a beautiful little French knot sprinkle on your frosting. So you'll just repeat that over and over again with all the colors that you want to use in a totally randomized pattern. Just think of yourself as throwing sprinkles onto that frosting. It doesn't need to look, neat. You can have some, French knots right next to each other for a really organic, fun cookie look. So once you have all the sprinkles that you want on here, then we're going to add that layer of batting to Either our backing piece of felty, or you can put it over the top of the wrong side of your frosting piece. You get the idea. So this is, or excuse me, it would be the right side of your frosting piece. Thank you very much, because we're putting these right sides together. All right, so we've got our batting, our backing felty, and then our embroidered felty, or our frosting felty, right side over the top of that other felty piece. Everybody with me now? You could put your batting over the top of this and so, but you really want to follow that line. So I take back what I said earlier. We want our batting, then our felty, then our embellished felty right side down over the top. So I just eyeballed this using the edge of my presser foot. I lined up the edge of my presser foot with the edge of those blanket stitches, and that's what I used to determine my cookie shape. All right. So I lined that up, and then I just did a straight stitch around the whole star. But remember, you've got to leave an opening for turning, and you also need to remember your hanging loop. So I got this really cute sort of peppermint stick twine out of the ribbon area of my craft store. Love that for ornaments. It's really strong. It's festive. It's cute. So I just made a hanging loop. You can make it as big or as small as you want, depending on where or how you're going to hang this. And you just match up the short ends of your loop and put it between the layers and make sure that it's not going to get caught in the rest of the stitching. So as you can see, I sewed a little bit of my cookie perimeter before I slipped my hanging loop in, just to make sure that it wasn't going to get caught in those other stitches. I just think it's easier to do it that way, but you do need to remember to add your hanging loop if you do it this way, because you can just get caught up in the moment and sew around your whole star, and then you don't have your opening for turning and you don't have your hanging loop. So remember those two things as you're going forward. So again, be sure that you're leaving an adequate opening for turning. I also use that heavyweight thread to sew around the star. It's just giving it a really durable finish. And I backstitch at the beginning and the end of the opening because it's really difficult to turn these guys right side out when they have all of these arms, right? Like the star. Of course, the heart was much easier to turn right side out. But I wanted to share with you this cute little tool, okay? This tool is made by Sulky Sews, S-O-O-K-I-E, Sews, S-E-W-S. Sue O'Very is the mastermind behind Sulky Sews. I've known her almost my entire career, sewing career. She's a lovely human, and she just is such a champion of the sewing industry. And she has come up with these really cool tools. All right. So this is called the Easy Point and Turner. Okay. And I linked to this in the blog post where all of the instructions for these ornaments live, which is also in the description of today's post. So if you want the full tutorial with all these pictures, all the instructions, everything spelled out for you perfectly, head on over to that and you will find a link for this turner as well. All right. So one side of the turner has this little blunt point. All right. The other side has this open area. So see how the point fits in to that open area. So this makes it really easy to turn things like this right side out. So what you will do is insert this into the opening of your ornament and clamp down on, let's say, the top portion of that star, clamp it down, and then pull it right side out through that little opening. And then you can fiddle with all the other little star legs or snowman hat or whatever little details are harder to turn right side out. This thing is like such a game changer for little things like this. Tube turning, all the little things that it's really hard to get those edges turned right side out. So this is a really helpful tool that I found super helpful when I was working through this project. Okay, so once you get it all right side out, then it is time to fold your opening edges toward the wrong side. And when you have those little areas of the star and things like that, it is so helpful to have that line from your applique stitching, because you can use that as a guide for your hand sewing. Now remember, you want to come out a little ways from that frosting line, we'll call it, but it gives you a really good guideline for turning those little areas to the wrong side and making sure that it's nice and even along your frosting edge. Okay. So once you've turned your opening edges toward the wrong side, I like to clip them shut, and this might look like an excessive amount of clips, but again, I'm really trying to achieve a nice curve and the same sort of seam allowance or cookie allowance away from the frosting. So I used a bunch of clips, and then the hand sewing just goes by so much easier when you've clipped it shut like that, especially with the felty. So we do have that batting in between that gives it a little bit of loft. But if you do want to add a little bit more stuffing, like fiber fill, polyester fiber fill, or whatever you like to use, you can stuff it at this point and then clip it shut and have a little bit more plushy ornament. And then you'll just hand sew that shut, and you have your cute little hanging cookie ornaments. They really do come together quite quickly. And you can make so many of these, again, in all sorts of different shapes. So I just love how they look also on my holiday rope tray. How many of you out there grabbed up one of our holiday rope tray kits from last week? I went over this brand new kit offering at sulky.com to make your own rope tray for displaying things over the holidays. And you could put any kind of rope tray or rope basket appropriate design on your tray. But if you grab up this kit, you get this gingerbread house wreath design that's perfect for embroidering on rope. And then you can go to our rope basket embroidery session over at sewingonline.sulky.com and get tons of videos for how to create that rope tray. But the reason that I'm bringing that up, here's the rope tray again with nothing on it, is we only have 9 kits available. 9 kits left of this guy. So if you didn't get one last week, you can still get one. You will get the rope, the thread for the rope construction, all the thread that coordinates with this embroidery design. You also get this embroidery design in 2 sizes. And I think, does it also come with a pack of needles? I can't even remember. There's a lot in this kit, and it's at a great, great deal. So you can still grab this up while supplies last. 9 available, 9. So I wanted to make sure and let you all know, because a lot of times when I use something as, you know, a prop, or I'll have it hanging behind me, everyone asks me after the show, what about that quilt that's hanging behind you? What about that bag that's hanging behind you? So I wanted to be sure. Holiday rope tray. Love it. Okay. So as I mentioned, I have 3 projects today. So we've only just finished one. Hang tight, because the next project also features applique. But as I mentioned at the beginning of today's episode, I got caught running out of time loading all these images into today's event. So this is the only image I have of the Warm and Toasty applique mug rug. So I'm going to quickly go over the tutorial for it, but it is a free download at sulky.com. I linked directly to this free pattern, which includes the applique template for the Warm and Toasty lettering that you see on this mug rug. it actually has a piece of felty behind the cotton fabric applique to give your mug rug a little bit of loft. I love incorporating felty into a mug rug because it also helps kind of absorb the heat and absorb any moisture that comes off of a cold drink as well. So I love using felty for these types of projects. This mug rug has batting, the front and back fabric, the felty, which is the background for this Warm and Toasty applique. I also like using it for something like this because it helps that lettering applique really pop. If we were to put this white cotton fabric just directly over the top of a print cotton fabric, we might have show through, or it would just get lost in the print. So when you back it with a little piece of felty, not only are you getting that extra protection in your mug rug for hot and cold beverages, but it's also allowing your applique to really shine. So for the Warm and Toasty lettering, it's the last page of the pattern. If you go to Sulky.com and add Warm and Toasty applique mug rug to your cart, it will say $0. You can go through the checkout process, and then the pattern will be added to your account at Sulky.com. The very last page is the template for the Warm and Toasty lettering applique. So that's what you want to transfer to your fusible web, and then you will fuse your fusible web to the fabric of your choice, and then cut out all of those letters. I will say you need a really nice, sharp, small pair of scissors because there's a lot of little details. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it. A lot of little details in that lettering, you know, the little center of the A's and just the edges of the really great font that was used for this. So you'll fuse that to your felty once it's all cut out and once you've placed it according to the template. And for the Warm and Toasty applique, I set my machine for a satin stitch. And it's a very narrow, close satin stitch so that all of the edges of my cotton fabric were covered in thread. No fraying or anything like that. This is not a raw edge applique. Your edges are completely enclosed in your thread. I did use a 50 weight cotton thread for this applique, but you could also go up to a 40 weight poly deco or even a rayon if you wanted a little bit more sparkle and shine. So once you have sewn your applique to the felty, now we are going to work on quilting our mug rug pieces together. So you can set aside the appliqued felty piece, which I just kind of rough cut around it, just give it a little cute detail. Now we're going to take our mug rug pieces, which is our back fabric, our batting, and the mug rug front, and we're going to quilt it. I used Sulky poly sparkle thread for the quilting just to give it a little bit of sparkle and shine because I love using a little bit of sparkle or a lot bit of sparkle on Christmassy, holiday, New Year's Eve type projects. It's just so appropriate for that time of year. Looks like a little bit of sparkly snow on your mug rug. I just quilted mine in a crosshatch pattern to give it a little bit of background, but you can quilt it in the manner of your choice. Once you get that all quilted, you will fuse your felty piece that has the applique on it to the mug rug top. Then you just cut it to size and bind it in the manner of your choice. So this is a really simple mug rug. However, the applique is very detailed. So that does take some time to get all of your stitching done, but totally worth it. It looks very professional and it's so, so cute. Absolutely love it. So I'm sorry I only have one picture of this, but you will download this free pattern and you'll get all the photos that take you through all of the steps for this free pattern at Sulky.com. So you may recognize this if you grabbed up our winter mystery box from last year, because this was one of the projects that was included in that mystery box. It was called our Warm and Toasty mystery box. And all of the fabrics, the felty, the perfect applique, everything you see that made this happen, including not only the thread for the Warm and Toasty applique, but then you can see I also blanket stitched the felty to the background. And then of course we have that poly sparkle. And then I used the same 50 weight cotton for the binding that I used for the applique lettering. All of that was included in the mystery box and then some, because we also included an in the hoop mug rug that was, whoops, that's not it, that features this cute little toast guy. Let me see if I can find the right image. No, that's not it either. Well, we will get to it. As I mentioned, I was like quite flustered this morning getting everything loaded in for today's live stream, so bear with me. But our Warm and Toasty in the hoop applique mug rug has in the hoop what am I even saying? In the hoop applique mug rug. So many things. It features a cute little felty toast guy. Get it? He's warm and toasty. And he's got a winter hat on and a cute scarf. And it says Warm and Toasty as well. So to make this guy, first off, we're going to, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? First off, we're going to hoop our stabilizer. And also included in last year's mystery box was the stabilizer and all the accoutrements for this project as well. It was a massive mega mystery box, and it had so many coordinating projects and products inside. Very, very cute. Okay. So first off, we're going to hoop the stabilizer. And for this mug rug, I chose to use Sulky Stiffy Stabilizer because we are layering a whole bunch of things on this mug rug. We're doing felty applique. We're doing our front and back pieces in the same hooping. So there's a lot of layers and we need a lot of support for that. Plus, the stitching for the details of this design is very dense. A lot of fill stitches. So we need that extra sort of thread count that the Stiffy Stabilizer provides to us. All right. So hoop only the stabilizer and place that hoop onto the machine, and then we can prepare our other pieces as well. This piece is for our felty little toast man. So we've fused some perfect applique fusible web to one of the sides of felty, whether it's the right or wrong, it's still going to look great. And then peel away that paper backing, and you can set this piece aside for the applique portion of the design. Then we are going to prepare our backing pieces. As I mentioned, this mug rug is done entirely in the hoop of your embroidery machine. That means we are adding the backing fabrics as well, and then we trim it all up and turn it right side out. So we have this envelope style backing for this mug rug. And just to be clear, this mug rug is today's giveaway for one lucky viewer who is watching and commenting and giving me those emojis, somehow engaging with the post. You also need to have liked us on Facebook if you're watching there, or subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching there, and you will be automatically eligible to win the In the Hoop Warm and Toasty mug rug, not to be confused with the applique mug rug that I just showed you that is free at sulky.com. Okay, so our backing pieces we are going to prepare by folding one short end of this fabric toward the wrong side and pressing flat. Then we can set those aside as well. And when we get to that point, they will already be ready to go. Now we are going to attach our mug rug background fabric to a piece of batting using some KK2000 temporary spray adhesive. Now that everything is prepped, we can go ahead and go back to our hooped stabilizer, and we will do our very first step in the design, which is going to outline our mug rug background fabric. So on the stabilizer only, you will do the placement stitch for that fabric we just prepared. Once that is done, we are going to spray the back of the batting with some more KK2000 and place this piece that has the fabric attached over those placement stitches, completely covering them. Make sure you smooth it down really nice so there's no wrinkles in the fabric. And then you will do the tack down stitch for this piece. All right. Once that is tacked down, as you can see right there, we are going to do the next step in the design, which is the placement stitch for our felty toast. I love that this is a piece of toast and that he's warm and toasty. I love a sewing pun. I love a toasty pun. Anyway, all right, so we're going to do our placement stitches for that felty piece that we already prepared with the fusible web. And then you're going to place that piece over the top of the placement stitches. Now, yes, we have fusible web attached to it, but obviously we do not want to fuse our piece down yet because we still need to do our tack down stitch. So to just make sure that it's not going to move or shift on us, I spray just the middle of it with a little bit of KK2000 and then stick that felty over the top of our background fabric and make sure it's not going to go anywhere. Then you can do the tacking stitches for the little toast piece, and then we will remove the hoop from the machine, or you can direct it to go to the trim position. And using some duckbill applique scissors, that's really the best way to get really, really close to this stitching step. You will cut off the excess felty, getting as close as you can to the stitches without slicing through them. And then you can fuse this down. If you have a little craft iron, that's really the best. Or you can start off by using your largest hoop, and then you will be able to fuse this piece down for the rest of the embellishment steps. I really recommend doing this because, again, it's a very, very stitch heavy, dense design. And we don't want that felty to shift inside of our applique stitches. So I like to fuse this down. Do not remove anything from the hoop when you are fusing it though. So if your iron is not going to fit over your hoop, I would just not fuse it, because if you move anything in this hoop, things are going to shift and then your design isn't going to match up. All right. So here we have our toasty, our felty toast, all trimmed up and ready for the next step, which is just adding all of the detail stitching. So you can see our little toast is taking shape. He's wearing a sweater. He has a hot cocoa. He has a cute stocking hat on. He's the cutest thing. All right, so you're going to finish up all those detail stitches. Look how cute he is. I love him. All right, and then it's going to stitch out your warm and toasty wording, or lettering rather, and some poly sparkle snowflakes all around. So this is our super, super cute in the hoop applique design. And now we've got to finish the mug rug. So you can also see on this step that there's a little line that has been sewn along the right edge of our warm and toasty design. This is the line for our faux binding that we're going to add to the mug rug. So yep, that's all done in the hoop as well. So first, you're going to stitch that placement stitch, and then you're going to place your fabric right side facing your mug rug so that the fabric extends beyond that placement line a 1/4 inch or thereabouts. Okay. You can use a little bit of KK2000 to just temporarily secure that if you want, or you can use our Sulky clear embroidery tape and just tape the upper and lower edges of that piece so that you can then run the tacking stitch for your border piece. Now we are going to spray the back of that border piece with some KK2000 and just press it toward the right side and smooth it down so that the KK2000 secures it to that side of the mug rug. Again, you can also use the clear embroidery tape and place that on the top and the bottom and the side edge, and then it won't go anywhere. And there's another tacking stitch that's going to secure that long edge in place. So be mindful if you are using a directional print for this part of the process, you want to make sure your print is facing the right direction when you're looking at your mug rug. Now we're going to do the same thing, but with the left side border piece. So it will then stitch the placement line for that, the tacking line for that, and then we will fold it to the right side using that KK2000, and we will follow suit with the upper and lower borders as well. I love that this is all done in the hoop of your embroidery machine. You can even do some little fussy cutting if you have a striped fabric or something like that. Very, very cute to border your design with a print fabric. All right, so after we have our upper border, then we are going to add our lower border. See how it just frames the design absolutely perfectly? Love that. All right, so then we place our lower border, again, being mindful of the direction of the print if you need to. And then it's going to sew that tacking stitch. You're going to spray it with some KK2000, fold it to the right side, and then stitch along that long raw edge. So now we've got our cute little framed mug rug top, and we need to add the backing to it. So you're going to take those two backing pieces that you reserved that have been folded along one edge, and you're going to overlap those fold lines so that you have a nice finished envelope closure. And then you're going to place those two over the top of your embellished mug rug so that right sides are facing. And here is really where you need to add that clear embroidery tape. It's really imperative that you tape this down. And the great thing about the clear embroidery tape is if you accidentally stitch over it, it tears cleanly along the stitching line without pulling or popping out any of your thread work. So don't worry too much if it gets in that stitching line. You can just simply remove it really easily. So once you've taped that down, you will sew that final outline perimeter stitch that's going to secure your backing pieces to the front of the mug rug. Now it is time to remove everything from the hoop. We did this all in one hooping. Applique, embroidery, borders, backing. Amazing. We're going to tear away the remaining tearaway stabilizer, which again, we use stiffy stabilizer here because of all the layers and the density of the stitches. We needed a thicker tearaway stabilizer. And I just tear it away along that outer perimeter stitching. I leave it intact inside of the rest of the mug rug. It almost acts like an interfacing. It gives it a little more body, a little more structure. It helps with your corners, and it helps it keep its shape over time. So if you have to throw it in the washing machine because you got some hot cocoa on it or cookie crumbs or what have you, it will help hold its shape over time. All right, so we're going to tear that away, and then we're going to trim the outer perimeter of the mug rug as close to the stitching line as you feel comfortable with. I like to go about 1/8 of an inch so that it's really tight around all of the edges, and then you can clip into the corners ever so slightly without clipping into the stitching, of course. So using a rotary cutter makes really quick work of this, but you could, of course, just use your trusty scissors. And again, I clip into those corners so that my corners come out nice and crisp. And then we're going to turn this guy right side out through that envelope closure. And you can give it a little bit of a press as well. You can use your Sulky multi-purpose turning tool to push out the corners very, very gently And I also like to run this along the whole seam line, especially when we're working with such a tight seam allowance, like 1/8 of an inch. I like to run this along the edges just to make sure they're nice and straight and flat. And then again, give it a good press. Make sure that your envelope closure is nice and straight. And both of those edges that we originally folded to the wrong side are still facing the wrong side. And then we have our adorable Warm and Toasty in the Hoop mug rug. This goes for $7.99 at sulky.com. It's an in the hoop design. All you have to do is download one file, transfer it to your embroidery machine, and you can make tons of these. Is that the cutest little piece of toast that you've ever seen? Love him. Look at all the detail in there with all the shading in the hat, all the different colors of that beautiful sulky thread, and then the subtle sparkle of that teal poly sparkle thread. I just absolutely love him. And yes, this design also came with purchase. Oh, I almost forgot. We've got to hand sew the backing shut, okay? You could leave it unsewn if you wanted to and put a little strip of that fusible web along the opening and just fuse it shut. But I do like to finish it with a little bit of hand stitching. So I guess I lied a little bit saying that the whole thing was done in the hoop, because if you do want to add that hand sewing last step for your backing fabric, you can certainly do so. But again, a little strip of that fusible web would shut it quite nicely as well. All right, so yes, he is the cutest, and he was also included in the Warm and Toasty mystery box. So if you grabbed up that box last year, you already have this design, and this is a good reminder to put it to use and make all the Warm and Toasty mug rugs for your friends and neighbors and coworkers for the holiday season. And the great thing about this is you can gift it for the holidays and they can use it all winter long. It's not something that's super holiday specific. It's just, winter specific. So it makes it so that you can use it a lot longer than just the holiday season, and put it under the tree, wrap it up for a gift, and somebody can use it after they've opened it over the holidays. So I love that. Getting lots of use out of it. And yes, the fabric is so cute. All of that fabric was included in the mystery box as well. Grace says, too cute and so easy. Love that. And yes, the tape is easy to remove. And if you forget to remove it and you've turned it right side out, before you hand sew it or close it up, while you are poking out the corners and all those things, just give it a little feel and make sure that that tape is all out of there. Barb says, so cute. Love the colors. Love how cute the mug rug is. So 2 versions of mug rug. One is done completely in your sewing machine using applique. One is done by using your machine embroidery talents and tools. And then we have our cookie ornaments that you can make completely by hand or using your sewing machine as well. So, phew! 3 projects, 1 hour. That's right, we did it. I told you there was a lot to talk about today. All right, so I hope you enjoyed these projects. Grab up some felty, grab up the embroidery designs, grab up your free Warm and Toasty applique mug rug, and get to stitching today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you next Tuesday for another So What?